Hi, I'm Matt Barbette. I'm here in a place in the south of France called La Turbie, and it just overlooks Monaco behind me, one of the richest places on the planet. But we're not here for the sun, the sea, and all that stuff down there. We're here for the mountains. The riches for us are up there because I've been challenged by Cycling Weekly to Everest a climb. So we're heading to the Col de Braus to give it a go. It is about 5:15, 10 past 5 in the morning, something like that. We are up early so we can head to a little village called Les Garennes, which is at the bottom of the Col de Braus. And that's where the Everesting is going to start. Ideally, we're going to get there around about sunrise, so we better get a move on. Behind us is the climb. It's around about 10 kilometers long up to the top of the col. Average is 6.5%, and we're going to gain about 640 meters altitude. So the thinking is it's about 14 reps to Everest it. It's 6:40 in the morning, 20 degrees already. It says here on the Garmin. And you can see how I've got it set up with 9 data screens. I have speed, total ascent, pretty important for Everesting. Distance, we're looking at about 280 kilometers today. Power, I've got it linked to my stages on the Campag chain set. 3-second average on that. Heart rate currently sitting around about 78, 79. Vertical speed, 30-second average is really important because we're aiming for about 1,000 meters climbed an hour. So that will keep the ride at around about 12, 13 hours ideally. That's the aim anyway. Gradient, as you know, pretty important. Average is going to be 6.5%, but it does ramp up to maybe 10 on here. Time of day, temperature just up below 20 Celsius. Perfect temperature for this right now.
You ready, Rick? I think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure I am, but we're doing it now. 6:44, that's the start time. Let's go.
Just finished our first ascent. Matt shot off, he's keen as mustard. It was a bit steeper than we expected. I think it said about 6.5 online, but it ramped up to about 10, 11 in places. So yeah, it was tough, and then it flattened out a bit at the top. But yeah, I'll go and catch him up now.
To help Matt, I'm just chatting lots to him, giving him encouragement, telling him he's going well, telling him to drink lots, telling him to eat lots. And yeah, just encouraging him really, staying positive. It's important not to say that, talk about not completing it. But yeah, I think he'll do it.
I don't know if there's ever a perfect climb to Everest on. There's always going to be pros and cons. The pros to this one are it's long but not too long at 10 kilometers. The average gradient at 6.5% is pretty good. The cons are there's very little shade with the sun out full blast like it is right now. It does ramp up to about 12% in places, which is too much. The hairpins are good going up, but they impede your progress going down. So we're constantly braking going down, which requires effort and concentration. And when you get tired, those are the things that go out the window. So, you know, ups and downs.
Just on lap 2, which is 30 k's, done about 1250 meters climbing, feel fine. It's actually quite humid today, not too hot, but it feels pretty close. As you can see, I'm sweating quite a bit. I'm a bit of a sweater anyway, but that's my worry, is just not keeping hydrated enough and just remembering to eat before I feel hungry. I actually feel a bit hungry now, which is too late to eat. I need to just keep it topped up.
One of the best things about this is it is very evocative. You can hear the cicadas going, you can smell the pine and the wild herbs here with the sun on them. It just reminds me of being in this part of the world, of good times, usually on a bicycle. But as I'm sort of getting deeper into my own pain cave, those kind of things count for slightly less than normal.
So yeah, I've sat out of this rep just so I'm able to give Matt a bit more support later on. We're thinking for every 4 reps he does, I'll probably do 3, just so I'm feeling a bit fresher and I can give him some encouragement later when it gets tough. Here he goes. I think Matt's doing well at regulating his efforts so far. Normally when we're riding in Regent's Park and the Surrey Hills at home, he's a bit of a punchy rider. He's prone to surges occasionally. So yeah, I think he's doing well so far at keeping his heart rate nice and low. And yeah, he's not giving in to the temptation to surge at all.
So we're at the start of the 6th rep right now. Done 5 obviously, and climbed a total of 3,173 meters in 100 kilometers, and we're still barely, not even halfway. Still a couple of reps off halfway. So it's a bit mind-blowing. In terms of occupying my mind, chatting to the family is not bad. But then at other times you just want to be quiet and just think or not really think about what you're doing. It's pretty relentless. My biggest concern right now is the heat. We're in the south of France in July, holiday season. It's 31 Celsius, it says here on the Garmin, which is not ideal for a pasty, hairy Northern European like me. With hindsight, I wished I'd brought a 29 sprocket on the back or a 32. I've got a 27 and a compact on the front, which will be fine normally if I was doing this once, but on the 6th go at 10% gradient, I'm feeling it right now. The Garmin's saying 34 Celsius. Now I don't care if you're a pro or an amateur like me, that's hard, whoever you are.
The Garmin's saying it's 35 degrees, it's super still, It's difficult to train for this in England, there's no wind whatsoever. Matt's going well, but yeah, it's certainly getting tougher and tougher towards the heat of the day.
The Garmin says 36.4 Celsius right now. You know, unless you live somewhere that hot, there's no way you can prepare for this, and I don't live somewhere that hot. London's been pretty warm recently, but not a patch on this. I mean, not within 5-6 Celsius of this. You know, we're trying to do this on a pretty clear day with the sun beating down.
Not a drop of wind.
Not a breath. You know, we'll carry on. We've done 3,300 meters, but it's going to be very difficult to keep up a momentum and take on enough fuel and water and electrolytes to mitigate against the effects of the sun. You can see the sweat's just pouring off me right now. I can taste the salt in my mouth. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. This would be hard at the best of times. It was like a nice, you know, chill day, 20 Celsius, but on a day like today, it's borderline impossible. However, we'll carry on for now.
We are approximately halfway, just a smidge under 4,300 meters. Legs feel all right, but it's just so incredibly hot. Temperature's dropped down a little bit now to about 34 Celsius, but that's still boiling. So it's a trade-off between going quickly and raising your heart rate too much. If you raise your heart rate too much, then you'll just blow up at some point. So keep my heart rate around about 140, which is relatively low, but just means that progress is very slow. So it's hard to guess right now how it's going to go. My hunch is not well, not completing it, but I'm going to carry on. I mean, this is the most I've climbed in one go ever, 4,300 meters. Certainly got another rep or two in me that'll take it into the 5,000s. So that's a good day by anyone's reckoning, but it ain't Everesting. Feel a bit fresher, not much stronger.
As you can see, I'm not on the bike where I should be, sat on a wall, feeling a bit sorry for myself. I've had to call it quits. It's been something like 12 and a half hours in the saddle. I've climbed 5,339 meters. A massive day, biggest day I've ever done climbing wise by a good 1,500 meters. Not Everesting though, is it? I'm really disappointed that I don't feel I can carry on. Feeling pretty nauseous, lightheaded. But it's taught me a lot of lessons. Taught me how much of a legend this guy is, my cousin Rick, for helping me out. Taught me that I already knew I'm just no good in the heat. It was 38 Celsius early afternoon, and that absolutely destroyed me. I wish I could carry on, and I know that plenty of people will comment below. You can put #fail if you want. Don't be too mean. They shouldn't be too mean, should they?
No, we made it to base camp. Everyone knows base camp's the real Everest.
Yeah, not everyone gets to the peak, do they?
Yeah,
to the summit.
To do it in 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. So it didn't exactly
go according to plan. Didn't make it. Did manage to climb 5,330 meters, give or take a meter or two. Essentially, what went wrong for me was the heat. It was scorching, wasn't it?
So hot, yeah, around 1-2 p.m. it's just unbearable.
I was sweating so much. It was a struggle, wasn't it, to take on enough fluids to replace all that?
Yeah. We must have got through about 2 bottles of water every climb.
And that was the worry. I've had heat stroke in the past. My legs were feeling fine, but I was worried about heat stroke. I was worried about the effect of the sun on my back and on my head, whether I had a helmet on or whether I took it off to just wear a cap or nothing on my head as we were going uphill. Just couldn't get out of that sun. I think that's what really put paid to the effort. Do you know what? I think you learn a lot from attempting something and it perhaps not coming off. And there are great bits about the attempt and not so great bits as well. The great bits first, riding it with this guy, my cousin Rick, even though there's 17 years age gap between the two of us, we're great mates. He's an incredibly strong rider. But do you know what? Just having you along to chat to about everything under the sun just made it that much easier. I think the nutrition we had on board, especially the Science in Sport beta fuel and the Saurine bars, worked really well. At no point did I feel like I was struggling with energy. The Garmin 1030 was a bit of a revelation actually, because the battery life is phenomenal. I think the biggest worry for us, wasn't it, that the battery wouldn't last?
It was. Outlasted us.
Yeah,
comfortably.
It did outlast us. It definitely would have dealt with pretty much the whole Everesting if we'd finished it. What I did like was when we were on the descent, the Garmin would beep to warn you of a sharp bend coming up, which was helpful, wasn't it? Did you use that?
I did, yeah, it was very good.
It seemed to come up just as you needed to brake, and it then wouldn't beep on corners where you could safely go around them without braking. So I thought that was a bit of a revelation actually, especially if you're coming down a descent that you've never done before or you don't know. Just knowing that it's a sharp hairpin coming up, you can hit the anchors, was really a really good idea. And the screen size as well, it was just so clear to see even in direct sunlight. So that was great. Kit wise, the stuff we had from Le Col was super comfortable. I have no saddle sores. That's probably testament to my saddle as well, but to go to a new pair of bibs like that and not suffer any problems at all is fantastic. For me, there are 2 huge negatives to this Everesting attempt for Cycling Weekly. I underestimated the climb in this instance. I looked at the profile, I thought I remembered it from having ridden it before, but what I didn't realise was just how big the ramps were. And I've been warned by Janto Barker in one of the earlier films we did in anticipation of this, was every time you hit a ramp, it gets accentuated. Every rep, it feels harder, and that was absolutely the case. I don't know what the ideal climb is for Everesting, frankly. Perhaps fewer switchbacks, because that was fine going up, but going down, always on the brakes, it just impeded our progress to get back to the start to climb again. So the Col de Braus, lovely as it is to look at, it's not particularly lovely to Everest on. A bigger problem for us, and certainly for me personally, was the temperature. We are in the south of France, getting towards mid-July. This is the time people come here for sun and sea and just relaxing in the heat, not doing a ridiculous endurance effort like Everesting. And so whilst we started off and it was relatively cool, it was quite humid because the clouds were burning off. There was a little bit of drizzle when we started, so that just made it quite cloying. Once that had burned off, the sun was just at its zenith then, and it was 32, 33, and it kept just going up and up and up, didn't it, the mercury? You kept looking at the Garmin, and it maxed out around about 37.9, 38, which is almost the same as your body temperature. So it makes it just so hard for your body to dump heat. We couldn't cool down. It just meant that I was expending more energy than I really wanted to, just coping with the heat. So those 2 things, unfortunately, are what did it for the attempt. What do you think about the way we paced ourselves? Because I was doing it solely based on heart rate, really.
I think it worked well doing it by heart rate. I think keeping it around 130, 140, making sure you don't surge, even when people go past you, just stay at that kind of rate. I think that worked quite well.
I had to be disciplined on this, even just to get to 5,300 meters. I mean, never mind not getting up there. That's still a pretty big climb by anyone's reckoning. It was just not letting other things distract you, keeping on the heart rate, which for me was staying in zone 2. You should really know your max heart rate and work your zones out from that. Zone 2 is the endurance zone really, and so I was keeping around about 135, 140 average, bearing in mind that my heart rate max is 200. So that was just, we were just able to keep it quite steady. The downside of that is if you're not used to riding like that, which we're not, we ride efforts quite a lot, so we're getting our heart rates up into zone 4 and 5 quite regularly. There's a real discipline to keeping your heart rate low, to just keep turning, try not to think about it for hours and hours on end up the same old climb. That would be the advice I would have, is just break it down into manageable chunks. You know, if you're doing a climb that size, just take stock every couple of reps. If you're doing, you know, a shorter climb with more reps, take stock every 10 reps. Have a bit of a breather. We had a breather sort of after 5 reps, which is more than a quarter of the way. And then unfortunately I had too many breathers every other rep after that because it was just so hot. But that would be the advice, is just, you've got to take it steady, I think. Would I do it again? Not here, not in July, not on that climb, but probably in cooler climbs or a cooler time of year, yes, I would do it again, and I would absolutely recce the climb more closely in advance, not just having done it a couple of years ago once. That's not good enough. I would go and have a look, maybe even train on the climb if I could, to really prepare myself. Will I do it again? Probably.